For this first band of practice, you're going to work on brush work. Select out 4 or 5 different brushes. Try to get a small round, a larger round, a small flat, and a larger flat. You're trying to get a sense of how these brushes work and how you can make a variety of marks with them. You're also trying to get a sense of how much paint you need to make the kind of marks you want. You're going to try dotting, stroking, smushing, tapering, and slicing. Dotting is simply dabbing into the paint and then dotting it onto the paper. Stroke is using the entire edge of the brush to make a stroke. Smush is what it sounds like. You smash that brush down into the paper. Taper means that you press and then you let up as you make your stroke. And then slice is the smallest, most precise little marks that you can make with your brush. For the flat, you'll need to turn it on its knife edge. Get a feel for how all of these look and how you might use them in your future. For this next section, you're going to mix up 3 different colors in your palette before painting. These should not be colors straight from the tube. They should be colors that you create by mixing different amounts of at least 2 colors together. When you mix, start with small amounts of each color. It is way easier to manipulate the look of a color if you have a small amount of paint. Notice how I'm taking little scoops of both colors with my brush and smushing them together in a dry section of my palette. Use both sides of the brush to really blend the colors together. Fill each box entirely. Don't let any white of the paper show through. At the same time, you don't want the box to be sloppy wet. Think of it like spreading peanut butter on toast. It should be even, smooth, and all over. I like to finish by doing strokes in the same direction, which makes it look clean and even. For the 3-color gradient, you are trying to get a seamless gradation of 3 different colors from one end of the band to the other. Pick your 3 colors and start with the first on one end. Use strokes going the same direction. I personally like up and down, and evenly spread the color about 1/3 of the way. While that first color is still wet, dip into your next color. Start this one in the middle and work it back toward the first color. As these 2 colors overlap, they'll begin to mix with each other. This is where you really have to feel out the right amount of paint and the right technique that will allow you to blend the colors on your painting surface. It will take a lot of push and pull. You may need to wipe off your brush periodically to have control over the subtle variation of color you need to make a gradient. Work quickly, because once this paint dries, you will no longer be able to blend it on your painting surface. With a clean brush, dip into your 3rd color and put it on the other end of the band. Just like you did before, work it back toward the middle until those 2 colors blend together. It's a good idea to take a little step back and look at the gradient. Does any one color look too dominant? Is it a seamless gradation? Is it too sloppy, too thin? Can you see any of the paper showing through? If you can't get it right, you can always let it fully dry and then try it again. For the contrasting patterns, begin with a gradient in the background. Here, I'll speed it up for you. One of the backgrounds should be cool, the other should be warm. We have to let the background fully dry before we do the pattern over the top, so try not to make it too wet and sloppy. For the other background, instead of using a back and forth stroke, I'm using a jumping, smushing technique, and this is best when the paint is a bit more tacky, sticky. You just jump back and forth between the 2 colors. Next, after the background is dry, choose a contrasting warm color and white. Choose one of the brush strokes from the brushwork section that you will repeat over and over to form a pattern. Dip your brush into the contrasting color and white. There should be a little dollop on the end of your brush, and create your stroke. Notice how many times I return to the palette to get more paint. The goal is not the exact same color in each stroke, but rather some that are a little whiter or a little brighter. It creates a flickering effect. Pack the strokes together and create some movement if you can. Do the same for the other background, but use a cool contrasting color and white instead. Choose a different stroke than the one you chose before, and ideally a different type of brush. Here I'm using a round brush and making more of a dot pattern. I'm also going diagonally instead of in a curve. Have fun with this. Fill it out until it looks great. After your work is fully dry, you can remove the tape. If you try to do this while there is damp paint, you will likely rip big chunks out of your work. Once we start using canvas board, you can remove tape while the paint is not fully dry, but paper is much less forgiving, so wait. Label your work. Put the title at the top, which is Acrylic Paint Warm-Up, and make sure to write your name too. Use Sharpie or another writing pen so it's legible and tidy. Label each different technique too, just like we did together on the border tape. Remove the outside border, and when finished, turn it into the inbox.